Hey guys, before the video starts, just letting you know that my audio didn't work, but on the next episode, we definitely will get that to work. Thank you for listening, like, and subscribe.
Honors, I'll just jump on it because I got a pretty strong religious background, if you want to call it religion. I mean, I just always call it my road to spirituality or whatever the hell, the to oneness or whatever. But I'm like, when it started, like I was forced to be in the Christian church my entire life, from 0 to 18, and like like mostly more than anything, like being like stuck in like the whole like the lifestyle, like being stuck in the whole like self-policing. I can't swear because God will send me to hell type stuff. Like that just really, it all led me to rebel. Like when I was like 15, 16, I started to rebel really bad. And
What religion was it?
I guess it was a Christian church. We were a refined Presbyterian, I guess you would call it. Like we were Presbyterian,
Okay.
yeah. And just another Protestant church. We believe Jesus died on the cross for us, and yada yada, yada, and so on and so forth. And
Right.
I mean, just the whole time, I mean, like I remember like reading the Bible and just coming up with anomalies, like just stuff that didn't add up, as everybody does. Like there's
Right.
like quotes in the Bible that are directly from like God to Daniel, and then there's other quotes in the Bible that's directly from Satan to David, and it's the exact same scripture. It's like fucking word for word. God turns into the devil, and he says the exact same thing. I could pull up some of the my references if you need me to, but it's crazy because they're both Old Testament scriptures. I don't know if they're written by the same author. I don't know if it's Ezekiel or whoever authored them or Isaiah, but yeah, man,
Right. Yeah, I was raised a Jehovah's Witness like my entire life, like
very
entire
nice.
from a minor, like from since I was born, and then I mean even till now, my wife is a Jehovah's Witness. Like everybody in my family is a Jehovah's Witness. Like they all are, like everybody, and
That
I'm
is rough.
right, and I'm the only one that's like we'll tell them straight up, like prove it to me, show me, like you know, and I'm like, well, what about this? Like I'll go in depth on stuff, like, and everybody gets mad, like they get angry with me, like, 'cause I'll tell them
And
straight
it's
up, like,
just for
hey, like,
asking.
huh?
And it's just for asking questions. See, that's the worst part.
Right, right, right. Like, who are you to ask questions? And I'm like, well, who are you to tell me it's wrong? Like, like don't throw bricks if you live in a glass house, bro. Like, like
Right.
what you're doing is wrong. Like the way you live your life, Caleb, you're living wrong. And I'm like, well, what about this? Like, what about like, how do you keep giving money to an organization that's supporting child molesters? Like, or like, you know, what happened
Yeah,
in
you got
Australia?
the Catholic Church. Yeah, the Catholic Church is just brushing off cases of pedophilia like it's fucking like a case of fleas, bro. There's
Right. And then like I don't
just
know, like in Australia, they had that case that like they settled for like hundreds of millions of dollars, like to with like over 1,000 on for not reporting pedophile cases in Australia in 2015.
and that's
And I'm like, and then you're God's organization, and you guys are paying off people to not, and then they say, oh well, that's not true news. Like, and I'm like, oh, it's fake news. Like, why? Because it's your religion, But then I say something about another religion, they're like, oh, that's not true. Like, that's a fake religion. I'm like, well, wait, how's it any different, bro? Like, how's it any fucking different? Like,
I
like
live my roommate and his fiance or whatever. They're both hardcore Christians and stuff. And I mean, I kind of like I don't really get the backlash because I've learned how to really respectfully and like really like just ease into the questioning because people just automatically put up that defense mechanism and they don't want to hear shit you have to say.
people get
But I
pissed.
mean, yeah, and it will just start with like just simple questions like, okay, well, I mean, if this religion has been around for 3,000 years longer than the very first biblical, the biblical scriptures, the book of Job is the oldest book in the Bible. So, I mean, if this religion has been around nearly 3,000 years before the Bible, then and it just asks, what are your takes on that? Especially when it comes to like, the every religion having a pantheon of gods rather than a single God. And then you have in the Bible where it says Elohim, they translated Elohim created the world,
Right,
created the heavens and the earth. And Elohim is a pluralized form of the word God. El is God and
right,
Elohim is plural. So he literally
yeah,
says that the gods created the heavens and the earth. And it would make more sense in Genesis 3 when he's saying, let us create man in our image, in our image. Like he said, let us create man in our image. And so, I mean,
right,
that's just another indicator, like fucking, you know, that maybe like either something was mistranslated or something was deliberately hidden from us.
right. And like I always say, like when someone tells a story, someone always tells it again, but they usually add to it a little bit, like to make it a little bit
Yeah,
more exciting. Like, you know what I mean? maybe not very
Yeah, the little
much, but they
exercise.
had something, you know.
You done that little exercise around the room with your classmates or whatever. You whisper something into somebody's ear, then they whisper it, and they whisper it, and
Right,
by the time it gets
exactly.
on the whole class, the shit's just
And
butchered, absolutely
right,
butchered.
and so if it's been that long since it was written, like, and maybe originally it started out different. Maybe it was, like written how it was supposed to be. But like over so many 3,000 years, like things are gonna change. Like things are gonna be added to it. And they've never found a complete Bible. Like they've never found a
And it's
complete
not
thing.
just exactly like even the Ethiopian Bible is the oldest like known copy of a Bible, but that itself is even a copy, bro. So I mean,
Right. Right. And it's like, and they've never found all the scrolls together. Like there's no complete Bible. And I'm like, but then they put it together and and there's certain books that weren't added to it, like, because then it contradicted things. And I'm like, well, why were they left out? Like, if they were part of it and they were written by oh, well, they weren't inspired by God, but they were during that time. Like, wait, like, how do you know they weren't responsible? Like, like, this doesn't add up. Like, two plus
like yeah, what
two
the
is
Roman
four.
Catholics were
Like,
calling paganism. Like the Roman Catholics, they were calling anything that wasn't specifically their doctrine, they were calling it paganism, and they're calling people who are practicing just like just natural natural spiritualism, like just shit that like in nature, like being one with nature, like respecting life and so on and so forth. They call that like New Age doctrine, and they called them heretics, and they were burning these motherfuckers if
and,
they
and
didn't
like,
confess.
right. And like,
Yeah,
if I say something in my family, like, my dad has literally told me, like, you quit saying stuff or I'll not talk to you anymore. Like he's like, yeah, and my wife too.
and
She's like, she'll tell me, like, either you quit saying stuff, like, or I'll divorce you. And I'm like, wow, like you're that scared of the truth, bro. Like, and then I'll stop talking
real
about it, like,
shit. Yeah.
and like,
And that's like
I don't know.
that's like I think it's a Confucius quoted it. He's the one who said like I'd rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned. And it's like that's like people just don't catch on to the fact like I'm like they're preaching something that they have absolutely no foundational knowledge of whatsoever.
Right,
And like fucking like they have all the anomalies that we've experienced, reading the scriptures and so on and so forth. They've experienced that shit too. They're just in complete denial about the shit. It's like, well, no matter what, I know that Jesus is coming in the clouds to save me one day, so I don't have to worry about nothing. And they just wash their hands of it. And it's like, I mean,
right,
to using and using scripture as like validation, like to validate something as absolute fact is like that's a fallacy too. Because I could write a book and it just because it's old doesn't mean it's fucking absolute truth.
right.
And so I mean, shoot. Hey, Rick, hey, how about your religious background? Have you like have you surrendered before?
Right, right. And see, but I'll say this: being in Costa Rica is different, bro. Like Jehovah's Witnesses are different here. They don't cut anybody off. Like they live, yeah. Like they have wives that don't believe. They have spouses. Yeah, their kids. They don't push their kids to go to meetings. They're like, yeah, it's different here than the United States. And I'm like, wow, this is kind of impressive. Like, because my wife's a witness, and so I've been going with her a little bit. And they're like, be like, oh yeah, they'll call me and be like, we're having a gathering, like, come with her. And I'm like, what? And they know that I don't believe. Like, they know that I've said stuff against it. And they're like, oh yeah, they're like, yeah, come with her. Like, my spouse is coming and she's not a witness. And I'm like, what? Like, that's different. Like, yeah, they're like, well, we ain't nobody's judge. And they'll watch R-rated movies. They'll have a cigar. Like, right.
What the fuck?
What? Yeah.
Celebrating birthdays and shit too? Like, fuck, not playing
Well,
around.
no, but they celebrate, like, the other day was Mother's Day here, and it's a big deal. And they acknowledge that.
Really?
And
No way.
but see, like even like Jehovah's Witnesses in the States, like, they used to not be able to, like, do like cheers at like parties and stuff because they said it was like pagan origin,
Yeah.
and they started making that okay. And I'm like, well, what's next for you guys? Like, I asked my dad, I was like, what's next, Christmas? And he got pissed. I was like,
Oh god.
right,
Jesus.
like I was like, hold on,
Man,
because they did away with like ties and all that stuff, right? Like you can have ties and long hair and beards, like all that stuff. Yeah, you can all that's okay now. And like I don't know.
What? I didn't even know that was never okay. That's gnarly.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have like full like stories. Oh,
Of
yeah, I
what?
was just about to say that. There was no record of Jesus Christ before the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, and like that was when they all got together and they decided which scripture was going to be canonized. So we're talking about the authority of just a few Catholic priests, and these are the same corrupt Catholic priests that that we have today. It's not like these guys have changed. They've had the same doctrine, they've had the same lifestyle for forever.
Right.
Whereas like they show everybody that they practice chastity and and abstinence and fucking sacrifice and so on and so forth. When in the end they're indulging in the most heinous crimes imaginable. And like the Catholic Church has hoarded material worth over the eons, whatever, by pillaging and plundering and putting people to the sword who don't confess their sins when they're just fucking practicing natural spiritualism. And they yeah, that was in 325 AD when they rebranded everybody who didn't believe as a heathen or as a heretic. And before that, like fucking, I mean, they're saying anything that came before that. I think it was the what was his name? I want to say it wasn't Martin Luther. It was Josephus. I think it was one Josephus. He was one of the translators or whatever. The translators. He was in the Flavian Empire, wasn't he? I'm talking about Flavius Joseph. He was. Yeah, exactly. And that's part of the point right there. Is
And
like
then
they're taking like they're showing up after the fact and they're saying that this is true no matter what, and they're just disregarding anything that happened before that. Like
right.
considering like in the Akkadian pantheon, like in the Akkadians, they had their god, their godheads, the pantheon or whatever, and one of their gods was a god named El. He was a jealous creator god. He wanted to be the only god, the supreme god, the supreme authority or whatever the hell, and he wanted everybody to bow down and worship him before any other gods and so on and so forth. And
Right.
he was a member of the Akkadian pantheon. His name was El. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. Yeah, Canaan. I think the Canaans, worship the Akkadian gods. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty
And
sure
see,
they've
like
done the because it's
I've
almost
asked
all the
them,
same way right there.
yeah, and I've asked the witnesses, like, they'll say, like, Jesus came for us and died for our sins so we can be, live forever or resurrected, whatever. And I'm like, well, what happened to everybody before him? Are they going to be resurrected? Because they started saying, like, oh, they're going to be resurrected, and they were like, well, like now they're
Like all
saying
the biblical
now,
patriarchs.
right, and now witnesses are saying, like, even like with the flood, like those people that died during the flood might be resurrected. And I was like, wait, what? Yes,
But they were, but were they
that's like
not?
their thing now, like the new life,
But then
like
what's the point of
because
the covenant then, right? That
right,
makes
what's the point of the flood, bro? To wipe out everybody, like, and they said because maybe he was building the ark so much, he didn't have time to go tell everybody, like, and so like people died that didn't know, and I was like, come on, dude, I was like, he was building it for what 1,000 years, they said, or
ad
right,
hoc. Yeah, it's true. Ad hoc
and I was
theory
like, and
after.
people didn't know that he was building, and I was like, now they might be resurrected too. I was like, but Jesus like didn't come for their sins, like he came after them, so or like who else was it? Like just a lot of people died before Jesus came, and they're saying those people are going to be resurrected. And I was like, well, wait. I was like, he didn't come until
They
after
invented
them. So you
they
know,
invented limbo for that. I think that's when they invented limbo. It's like, oh yeah, they're not in heaven or in hell. They're just in limbo, waiting for Christ to come for Christ's second coming because they're not going to hell
right,
because but it's on. But dude, like, all men are sinners. That's what the Bible says. And for the wages of sin is death. God cannot dwell with sin, and you're punished for sins. And so, I mean, like fucking, I mean, he's just like picking and choosing. All right, but they're not punished because they're cool. Fucking, they're not. There had to be bloodshed for sacrifice in the Old Testament. That was the covenant. Like there had to be bloodshed for
right.
for forgiveness. And so like to take that all the way and come up with a new covenant to say, hey, now all you got to do is just believe. That's all you got to do. And
Right.
and then on top of that, kind of like grandfathering in everybody who died before that. Like fucking, it's all ad hoc theory after ad hoc theory. Like fucking that they're just doing it on the fly.
And,
It's coming on the fly. Like, oh, Yes, sir. And
Right.
it manifests pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't know. It's complicated thing, but like I've learned to think like, if people want to believe in anything, like let them believe in it. Like if that brings them fate, lets them sleep better at night. Like just don't push it on me. You know what I mean? Like
I
just
was
don't
gonna
throw
say
it at me.
exactly that, yeah. Because I
You know
mean,
what I mean? Like
you can't deny that like like the morale that you get from the Bible, whatever, like the moral structure that you get from the Bible is not a bad thing. Like the whole
right.
like
It can
loving
be a
your
good
neighbors,
thing.
so and so. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And so if that causes somebody like the whole self policing idea causes somebody to be an actual like better person, like more power to them. But I don't need to be threatened
Right.
with hellfire, and I don't need to be rewarded with heaven to fucking be a good person. Like
Right.
it's you're very clear on that.
Right.
Yeah, and they regard it as uncleanliness or whatever, but it's the same fucking thing, bro.
Yeah. Same book, different chapter, bro. Like you know what I mean? Like that's why I tell
That's
them I'm like
what
same book, different chapter. Like
I
and
think on
then
our
people
last podcast, I think I briefly mentioned that too. It's like, I mean, the actual Ten Commandments, word for word, except for the fact of "Thou shalt not" is turned to "I have not," but it's the exact same Ten Commandments. Spell 123 of the Book of the Day, like right there in black and white. I have not, I have not stolen. I have not lied. I have not, whatever. It's like it's all right there.
right.
And
Right. Like if you're looking for something to call God, like you're gonna find it. Like you mean something weird happened, weird shit happens, you know what I mean? And it doesn't mean that's God, it means that it's just life. Like I'm sorry to tell you. Like yeah.
there's also,
Like
I mean, the idea of like receiving laws directly from God and stone tablets has been done before. I mean, I think Dionysius did that. Like, he received who? No, it was a Manu out of Persia, a Persian lawgiver named Manu. Fucking received tablets from the gods, and he fucking knew that were written laws like your commandments or whatever the fuck. And I mean, there's another. I want to say the first was Persian, then after that it was Babylonian, then Persian, and the Persian god, I'm sorry, was Meses, and the Babylonian god was Manu. But like Manu and Meses turns into Moses eventually, and it's the exact same characteristics of the exact
right.
same guy.
And
Leading people.
what drives
It
me
was a
crazy, like my mom when she was dying cancer, she was saying, like it's gonna be okay, Mom, Jehovah will bring me back to life, and I was like, well, why doesn't Jehovah stop you from dying in the first place? And she got
yeah.
pissed, bro. Yeah, she got pissed. I was like, and I was like, well, it's true. I was like, why do you have to get? Oh, because Adam and Eve sinned. And I was like, and you have to get cancer and die from that and be taken away from me right now because of
Oh
their
shit.
sin. Like, is that how it worked? I was like, yeah. I was like, and yeah, I said some stuff like that, and I shouldn't have said it when she was like dying like that. But she would just always nag me about like, oh, if you don't become a witness, you're never gonna see me again. Like, I'll never see you again. And then she's like,
And that's
and I was just like, man, like, stop. And then finally
and
one day I
that's
was like, why, if Jehovah's so great in power, like, but I don't know.
I used to say the same thing. I mean, again, I don't mean to be like derogatory or nothing like that, but I mean honestly, like back in the day, like slave masters wouldn't give their slaves any books. They wouldn't be able to read anything. What they were given was a Bible, and I mean that just led
Right.
me to ask, like, if there's any power in the name of Jesus Christ, then why would the masters give it to their slaves?
To a Bible. Yeah. Right. And the way
Yeah,
they treat them and shit, like, come on. Like, yeah.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. Really.
Oh,
So I mean, you just work on your inner wealth, but you're probably gonna be starving the whole time you do that. Yeah.
right. And torture them and do terrible things and shit. Like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Ah, man, there's no real historical record of that guy.
Paul, you mean
I mean,
like the Bible?
yeah, the biblical Paul.
Really?
And yeah, he
I've
was
never done
yeah,
research like that. I've never.
because the Gnostics, when they were talking about Christ, they were talking Christ as more of an idea, more of a state of mind or more of a state of being rather than an actual Messiah. Like, you know, the Gnostics were, and you know, they're not, they're the first Christians. And when they talk about Jesus, they do use this pretty much the same like structure that you see in the scriptures, where it's like, you know, they refer to him almost as a real person, but you could totally tell it's allegory because they also open it up to you, where like when you act like Christ or when you become like Christ, you know, then you'll, you know, then you'll do great things, and you know, you'll be moving in the spirit, and you'll perform miracles, you'll do greater things than he will apparently. And that's all good and gravy, but I mean, like, fucking it was accepted up until around 325 AD when they started picking, you know, cherry picking which scriptures that they were going to keep and which scriptures they
Right.
were going to throw away, you know, according to their, you know, their agenda. This is all, you know, from the Catholic Church. This is all the Holy Mother Roman Church of whatever Rome. But like what I was gonna say is that when they were cherry picking all these things, like, you know, before that it was known, it was common, like, you know, it was common knowledge that the whole idea of Christ was allegory, where like everybody knew. And even there were even historians back in the day who would say, like, when you know, when the Gnostics are talking about Christ, it's the same thing as when we were talking about Jupiter. It's the exact same thing. We just, you know, replaced we replaced Jupiter with the Messiah, and it all just added up the exact same way.
Right. Oh, you're good. You're good. Yeah, I don't know very much about like that stuff. I just don't like right.
Right. Yeah. Tell me all about 19. Yeah. Tell me all about 1975. Like, you couldn't tell me shit about 1975. And now it's just,
Right. Stay alive till 75.
oh, that's funny.
Yeah, stay
Yeah, I
alive.
just figured you were probably born.
Yeah, that's in their book. That yeah, my dad's been like, oh, that wasn't in a book, and I found like because my mom had a bunch of old literature, like Jehovah's Witness literature, and I found it in a magazine, like an old magazine, like from '73,
No shit.
and it said "Stay
No
alive till
shit.
'75," and I was like, what is this? And he's like, oh, where'd you get that? And I was like, I was like in mom's literature, like of Jehovah's Witnesses, and that she got from the Kingdom Hall, and yeah, they were burnt. Like I was like, stay alive till '75. I was like, you know, and then because everybody sold their shit off, like everybody was selling their stuff, taking out loans, doing crazy stuff, and like
Yeah, that's like that was at the ass end of that gas panic and everything they had, and wow, that was must have been one shitty time to be alive.
right, and and then you guys know, and you know about like Franz, right?
No.
Really, like he was on the governing body, and he was putting fake stuff in the watchtowers. Like he was an apostate. He's an apostate, you know. Like he was talking against Joe's Witnesses, but he was governed right. And I was like, if
So
they're
kind of like,
right, if I was like, if they're governing the governing body is like the source from Jehovah to us. I was like, how was he on it and doing those kind of things? Like answer that, you know, like how would Jehovah let if it's his organization, how would he let somebody like that get on the governing body? Like if it wasn't, you know, they get pissed, bro. They get so mad. Like, yeah. And I'll tell my wife,
oh,
I'll be like, yeah, my thing was like always like stay alive till 2025. And she's like, knock it off. Like, or I'll tell you know, like,
that's
or I'll
like
be
gotta
like,
be
stay alive,
like Y2K joke, exactly, man. Like a Y2K joke.
right? Or I'll be like, stay alive till 35. Like, that's my new thing. Like, and she's like, knock it
We're gonna
off.
make
Like,
it up 2035. Let's go.
right, right. Mhm.
100%.
But you know,
So the Crusades were in the what, the 1300s were the Crusades. I want to say up until the 1300s that was the Crusades, or 1400s. I want to say because the fall of Alexandria was in early 1400s or fucking something like that. And then after that it was the Grecians and then the Romans, like, you know, it was the Maccabees, yeah, or Macedonians, you know, yeah, Alexandria or whatever. And like, you know, they were pretty much like a world power, and it just pretty much they flipped the switch and it was all Roman after that. And they don't mention how like the Catholics or whatever you want to call them, the Crusaders, how they fucking pillaged the Library of Alexandria, and like they're hoarding all this ancient knowledge, bro, beneath you in the archives. And I mean, like, and they, which means it's a perfect indicator, which tells you they have the truth, they know the truth, which means they're perpetuating a lie on purpose. Like, fucking, it's all set up, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, you know.
Right. Like the governing
They,
body now, do they know that it's not 100% accurate? Maybe. Like I
well, this
tell
goes
them,
back, yeah, this goes back to the ancient mystery schools. It goes, it's all like, they didn't like disappear and come back. Like this is the same lineage of fucking, people in power that had been in power
right.
like since and like, like the dark ages weren't the dark ages. Like that's just when they chose to tell us, chose to give us a story, and everything before that always called that the dark ages, and say we don't know anything when they fucking know damn well exactly what the fuck they did.
Yeah.
They know what they
And like
did.
my dad will say, like, oh, no one gets paid. Like, and I'm like, well, sometimes power is more important to people than money, you know? Yeah. And I'm like,
Absolutely.
I was like, sometimes people want power more than they want any amount of money. Like, and I was like, that's how I feel about the governing body. Like, they want to be,
Yeah.
like, I'm the governing body. Like, especially now, because
And
I
no,
don't know that they do like a monthly broadcast now and like a monthly update on their website.
no
And
shit.
yeah, like every month they put on a new video, like watch it, and they'll be at the meeting, be like, make sure you watch the new governing body video, like it's announced every month, like, and like I don't know, and each one of them come on there like I'm brother blah blah blah, like, and they're wearing a fucking
And
Rolex, like, and right, right, and I'm like,
yeah, and
and they're like, don't,
the cat. They've ever since like they've ever since the Crusades, like the Catholic Church has been the most wealthiest entity on the face of the planet. There's like been no other like source of material wealth more abundant than the Catholic Church, and like and their resources, because like they have worldwide reach, they have people in power all over the planet, and like
right,
I mean, like the Jesuit order will infiltrate any fucking body of government, any governing body of any organization. They will infiltrate it if it has any power at all, and they'll fucking they put their influence everywhere, and that's their goal. And I mean, like, this is coming all from the authority on spiritualism. I mean, they're hoarding more material wealth than any entity that's ever existed, and they have the balls to preach about like poverty and chastity and fucking and
right,
sacrifice and whatnot. But it's like, dude, like they're sitting there like fucking like people are starving, they're begging for fucking, begging for alms for the poor and shit like that, while these guys have all the money, like all the fucking money. Like how's like
exactly,
that was when you paid your taxes to the church and shit. You paid your taxes to God. You paid your royalties to the God and to the crown. And so like fucking, I mean, that's these are the same guys collecting taxes too. They're taking your money and they're giving you like pennies back while you starve. Like it's and 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 that's where people get their spiritual
and what's so sneaky about
from.
witnessing?
This is like really like the
Yeah, and they'll be like,
was it?
nobody gets paid, blah 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 blah, like, but then every article now it's like, like,
Yeah,
you might be suffering financially, but don't forget to like help the worldwide work. Like, don't make, do what you can, only give what you can, but like, the worldwide work needs to continue. Like, and like here, like moving to Costa Rica, like their kingdom halls, they don't have air conditioning, dude. They don't have any seats. They have no seats. Like they're like shacks.
oh shit.
What? We had to bring our own seats, like portable chairs, dude. Like, right. And I'm like, dude, are you serious? Like
Yeah.
the halls in the United States get remodeled every 3 years. They put new carpet in, they put new seats in, they upgrade the air
Like
conditioning
what's all that?
on it. And I was like, and this hall doesn't even have fucking air conditioning? Like it's 90 degrees with 90% humidity. Like, right. And like they're like, oh, we don't mind it. Like and I don't know. It's just some stuff I'm like, wow, like, you guys really believe this because you guys sit here for 2 hours sweating your balls off, like, and you're not even complaining. Like it's crazy. But I don't know. But it's just like, wow. Yeah. I'm like, wow. Like
They would call it martyrdom. They would just call it martyrdom anyways. Yeah, you sacrifice for the Lord. Like, yeah, that's just martyrdom. Yeah, everybody's just a martyr. Like, there's no victims, only martyrs. Yeah. And like fucking shoot, what I was gonna say is that these guys god damn, I lost my train of thought. I mean,
eh,
fucking so we're talking about yeah, oh yeah, the money. It's all about like the money, dude. These guys like, not just donations, but what they've also, plundered and pillaged throughout, throughout the eons. And on top of that, like fucking like sure they're nonprofit, and that's how they get away with this shit, by going as nonprofit. They're a religious organization. They're not, they don't make any profit off the thing. But at the same time, if you like, instead of recording their quote unquote profit and you started recording their cash flow, dude, they'd be a Fortune 5, dude. Like there's more churches that would be like Fortune 500 companies than banks probably. Like it's insane. Like
Right.
we have mega churches that
I
that
mean,
out earn that out earn like fucking whole governments. Like, are you
right.
kidding me? There's churches that out earn whole governments. Like it's insane.
Like the
And
Vatican,
these guys, these
like one of the richest places in the world. Like, and
Oh,
it's made.
absolutely.
You know
More
what I mean?
material wealth, and they actually they've dictated that they own souls now. They own your soul. They will literally they have the parchment that actually says the Catholic Church owns absolutely everything on the planet. It all goes to the Pope. The Pope is the regent of the
Yeah.
Pope is the regent of God Himself, and he speaks with God's word, and everything in the world that is God's is His. And so all the land, all the water, all the souls, like and they'll claim it.
Right. It's just business. It's a business. And it's booming. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah, definitely.
yeah. And I thought about right. No, I thought about that, dude. I've planned it out and stuff. And I told my wife, and then like she mentioned it, and they were like, "Yeah, I would get this." Like, I'm not gonna do that, but yeah, I thought it like because my business mind, bro. Like, I'm all, and
Dude, we
like,
were coming up like when I was like 17, we were I was in the worship band, whatever the fuck, and we decided to start our own band. We all got free instruments, bro. The pastor or got us all free instruments,
right,
and he didn't have to pay anything. It was all a rebate. He didn't have to pay a damn thing. I
right,
got a PRS $900 guitar and shit, and I was just fucking just a beginner
yeah,
on a PRS, dude. Sure, like fucking, and they just got it like that, bro. They don't have to claim anything for taxes, and so I mean, like all the, it's not just the donations, like the monetary donations, all the assets, like any material asset, they don't have to claim anything. They don't have to be taxed on anything. Like fucking, and at the same time, they're just raking and fucking raking in the dough.
yeah,
Like televangelists, even those televangelists.
right. And their people suffer. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, it's crazy. Like, I
Dude,
don't know.
some asshole could put on a three-piece with a tie and everything, and like just rent your public access fucking TV station, mock it up a little bit with a cross and a fucking couple of curtains and shit, and that just, and he's a nonprofit, he's a televangelist, he's gonna he's not gonna claim a single penny, and like fucking he just get fucking stupid rich off of fucking your 1-800 calls and shit. It's and like, and they're buying it. People are literally still calling that shit, and fucking like that Joel
What?
Osteen guy, man,
Oh, fucking rich,
like
bro. He's
that guy,
fucking crazy
that guy
rich.
is so rich. That
And then
guy
he
is
went
so rich.
during the
Like, and
flood
he's
and
so,
stuff.
yeah, I was gonna make a pretty good joke too. That would have been cool. I don't We could leave it out, but it was great. I was like, dude, Joel Osteen, have you seen the guy? Dude, he's so fucking full of shit. He can't even open his eyes when he's talking. He's like, Jesus wants you to have popsicles. Like Jesus, like all this fuck he can't even see. He won't even open his eyes when he's saying that shit. Like, yeah, maybe you just can't bear to see the disbelief on their faces. Heard of him, but for me it was Benny Hinn. Benny Hinn all the way, bro. Like literally performing miracles at the snap of the fingers. Like, dude, that's worse than a pope. A pope can't even do that shit. Now you just got some fucking Indian guy that can do it 20, like 200 years later and shit. Like, what the fuck? And it was so Hollywood, bro. Like people healed, like flailing and shit. I'm healed. It's like, dude, whoa. I can't get that excited about it. Like, look at like real shit. Look, dude, it's like that nigga Kenneth Copeland. You know who Kenneth Copeland is? That mother owns sweatshops. Like, dude, what the fuck? The guy owns sweatshops and he fucking has the balls to sit there and take money on TV in the name of the Lord, dude. It's insane. People are like, I mean, you got to give him some credit, bro. Because I mean, if I was like smart enough to just come up with a fucking scam that would get everybody in on it and like fucking, and I wouldn't have to do any type of follow up, any type of enforcement because they're policing themselves and they're still just giving me their money, and all I got to do is offer them promises of salvation and like fucking, and they just give me all the money I ever want. Like I wish I would have thought of that, bro. You know, like snake oil. It's just like the first, the prototypical version of snake oil, bro. That's before there was snake oil. Same fucking thing. Yeah. Real shit. That's one of like the ultimate like fucking like end of my fucking church run kind of like like uh period there where like fucking like my mom was like fucking she could see that I was rebelling and she could see that I wasn't buying it no more. The whole thing like you could sucker me into accepting Jesus into my heart when I'm 6 years old because like the whole thing like fucking I see everybody doing it. I feel really good about it. It just make me feel good, get them tingly feelings inside doing something right. Fuck yeah, dude, it felt great. But then like later on down the road when like it really held no benefit to me whatsoever, and it literally like fucking I mean it literally like it consumes all my time, like takes some of my money, like fucking I mean I can't even watch football, like dude. And like so fucking and when I was like like at the end of my run, like I remember asking that to my mom, like fucking this I have one question. So like I mean there's like kids being murdered and kids that are starving. There's like parents who have kids and oh, my bad. Yeah, I was gonna say you were breaking up back there too. Well, I mean, it's just like the whole having more questions than answers. Like that's basically what I was getting at. Like, and my mom just would not take the questions. Like, well, first off, that's for him to know and for us to find out. It's his plan, not our plan. He must think he's God or something. And that would always be the excuse. Like where I couldn't get my questions answered. It's like, okay, well then how come? Like seriously, if that's the case, then like what he created? Did he create the devil? And like fucking, well, yeah, well, and and remember, this is God now. He's perfect. He's all knowing, omniscient, like fucking, omnipotent. Like fucking, there's nothing that he doesn't know or can't do. And so, how is there duality to begin with when fucking we could have only good, like we can have only fucking up, we can have only happiness, like if apparently. And so, I mean, and I really, I accept. And I do kind of accept it just based on the fact that we do live in a in a three-dimensional world of duality. This is totally a world of duality. There's the spectrum, but there's always two sides of the spectrum, and then everything in the middle, and there's nothing beyond that. So it's totally the duality world. Like we have our negative extreme and our positive extreme, or we have our black and we have our white, we have our up and our down, and I kind of use that formula to kind of help me see past the whole good versus evil thing, because when you blank when you're saying something's evil, you're really just saying it from your own experience. Like you're the only one who knows your experience, you're the only one who can speak from your experience. And so this is basically an opinion. It is every single time if something is evil to somebody, like that it probably wasn't evil to the person who was engaging in the act that is evil, because in their eyes it's justified. In everybody's eyes, their actions are justified. And so, I mean, that would yield credence to the notion that there really is no inherent evil. It's just how we feel about it. And so, I mean, sure, somebody killing a kid is fucking terrible. It's the worst thing in the fucking world, and I think that's evil. But at the same time, it's not inherently evil. It's just we perceive it as evil because I mean, who am I to tell you? Yeah, brother, brother, I'm yeah, and we're right. Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, adding to that, like and like a lot of people, like when it comes to the whole Bible thing, like we don't really get that long to test drive for the car. We don't really get that long to to ask questions about manufacturings or previous accidents or anything that might be wrong with the theory. We're told to blindly accept it, and if we have any questions, don't worry about it. You're just supposed to have faith. Well, that's cool. So I'm supposed to surrender the reasoning that he blessed me with, and the logic that he blessed me with, and the intelligence that he blessed me with, and just sit back and say whatever you say is good. And that's basically how a lot of people got quote unquote saved. Like fucking, they were just told to. I would call it knowledge without knowledge without substance, basically. Yeah, totally. Yeah, like belief and shit. Yeah, and belief is not knowledge. Yeah. That's not like the only study that's been around that long. Like there's been like every study has been along. Like I believe our ancestors were much more in tune with like with knowledge, spiritualism, like astronomy, like knowledge of the celestial bodies and everything. So like they had advanced knowledge of everything, how time works. And so I mean, to sit there and say like that they didn't know anything about psychology or nothing like that, so they like like to say that they wouldn't know how to manipulate a mass of people into fucking into engaging in behavior they wouldn't normally behave in, but using fucking outward influences like social conditioning tactics for fucking like fear mongering. It works really well to the point where like fucking these people are literally terrified of hellfire, and they're terrified of doing or saying something wrong. And this guy that supposedly loves them, that they love wholeheartedly, they're walking around in constant fear of the guy, like absolute terror. I remember being terrified the whole time. I was like, I was terrified the whole fucking time. It's like, geez, if I do, like, I would say or do something I would normally do, and I hit me like, oh shit, that might be a sin because I just said fuck that guy, and I'm sitting there just like, oh shit, man, maybe I'm just terrified, bro. Like, fuck, is that really that's enough to send me to hell? And I was taught that very much so. Yes, even one little sin, that's enough to send your ass to hell. To draw a comparison, it's like like a comedian, Bill Burr, he fucking said that one perfectly. He's like, dude, if I was to like make a car, right, and it didn't run, I would have like, oh damn you, burn it, your evil car, fucking burn in hell forever because you're evil car. Like, no, I'm the one who made the motherfucker. It's like fucking. And the way he said it was funny. The way he said it was funny. He's like, dude, you really just threw me out here. You make me suck at math. You make me like horse, and like fucking. And it's like, you didn't think this train was gonna run off the rails at some point, like fucking, real shit. And it's like, it's his fault. No, it's not his fault, bro. Like we were put here. And so like fucking, I mean, just the whole idea that fucking like he could create something that is imperfect is already a fallacy in itself because he's supposedly perfect. So I mean, you know, so basically, so I mean, he even craps perfect. Precisely, precisely. How is something that cannot dwell in sin introduce the idea of sin to begin with? Have the possibility of sin in this whole, like a computer programmer who programs everything in the program. He does, every single, member of the binary code, every single character in the binary code, he fucking programs that shit. And so it's not like any detail. Oh, I didn't think there was going to be evil if I was to create this person who was perfect. Like, and it can't be like that, dude. Like, literally either he is omniscient or fucking, there shouldn't be any evil. There couldn't be. Absolutely not. It's all allegory. It's all about our inner journey, the inner journey to enlightenment. Yeah, no, I want to say like in or around the time of Jesus' life, we'll say 30 years before he was born and about 50 years after he was born. And that entire time around the Mesopotamian area, there were at least 35 well-known historians, and not one of them made any mention of a guy who destroyed the temple in Jerusalem. Not one mention of the guy who fucking healed the sick, healed the blind, walked on water, fucking fed 5,000 people with some fish, and like fucking, I mean, no, any of that made it into any of the contemporary record. Yet so many things did make it into the contemporary record around that time, and they match from historian to historian, like from region to region. The stories still match. Yet and then all of a sudden, four anonymous books come out of nowhere, and they fucking decide we'll call this one Matthew, this one Mark, this one Luke, this one John. But there was no Matthew, there was no Mark, there was no Luke or John. Like they were anonymously written. They were totally anonymously written. They attributed it to apostles just because it lended validity to the fucking validation to the scripture. When at the it's all it's all scam, bro. I do believe yeah, because he took God the when because like, I know in the scriptures they got him like they cut it off when he was a boy, and then they come back when he starts his missionary. And so that's leaving what, like fucking like 23 years completely unaccounted for. And like there's like in the Gnostic texts, there's talk about like Mary Magdalene being his wife, dude. There's a gospel of Saint Peter because Jesus had a brother too named Peter. They don't tell you that in the canon, but in the Gnostic scriptures, there's a gospel of Saint Peter. There's a gospel of Mary Magdalene. And like fucking, and you read the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, it totally blows the whole story wide open as far as whether or not Jesus was a real person or not. Because yeah, definitely check out the Gnostic text. I mean, there's so many things that can be considered the Gnostic text. So I mean, like the Gnostic scriptures are basically just like mysticism. It really was mysticism, and it's all about enlightenment. So the enlightened ones would inspire you to ask the right questions. They would inspire you to want to know about certain ideas that would lead you to enlightenment. And that's exactly how they did it. They did it with allegory. They did it with mysticism. And so like fucking, and that would make a lot of sense about how Jesus talked in parables and shit all the time and everything. Well, shit, that's how he's always done it because it was supposed to be regarded as allegory, and it's about our inner journey to enlightenment because you and I are the sons of God, and humans do have godlike powers, and we've been robbed of our heritage. Like I mean, I seriously, like, we are not just human beings. Like we're not purely physical beings, but we are spiritual beings in a spiritual body. I'm sorry, in a physical body. Like we are spiritual beings. We got to work a whole episode on that one. I'm about like, all right. Well, then I just say I defy anybody to take a picture of any like pictures of Christ on the cross from antiquity. It always looks like the exact same. He's on the cross, his head's hanging to the side, and his feet are pointing to that same side, whatever. And he's off center to the left, his left, our right, I believe. And it's always like that. If you were to take the human brain, like your skull, your cranium, chop it in half, like from your front to back, frontal back, from the front to back hemispheres. You cut it directly right in the middle. You'll end up at the cerebellum. The cerebellum will be exposed. The left and right hemispheres of the brains will be exposed. And if you line up that left and right hemisphere of your own brain to a picture of the crucifix, they line up perfectly. And that means like fucking like it really is about the inner. I'll send you a picture when we get off. I'll send you a picture that I made. Like it's undeniable. And so when considering this and the inner journey, it makes everything in the Bible kind of make sense as being allegory, but not as literal, because they say he was crucified in Golgotha, the place of the skull. Like like he says, if you want to know what was it? If you to know thy kingdom, to know his kingdom, you must first look within. Like I mean, even in Timothy, they even say it blanket. When we talk about Moses performing these things, I don't know verbatim, but it literally goes like, when we talk about Moses, when we talk about Joshua and so forth, he's like, we hold these things to be allegory. And they even say it in Timothy chapter fucking 4, verse 20 something. Oh, like, so there you go. Yeah. And it literally says we hold these things to be allegory, bro. He says it, and he says what they hold to be allegory. And these are biblical patriarchs he's talking about, people that supposedly walked and talked and fucking, enforce God's word on us. Like it's insane. But but yeah, check it out. Like you can look it up on Google, just like the left and right hemisphere view of the cerebellum or whatever, and boom, Jesus on the cross, like straight up. Yes, sir. For sure, Mr. Rock. Well, yeah, I mean, God, like people are just holding the keys to their own prison. They don't even know it. Yeah, Mr. Ross, always a pleasure, man.